Namaste everyone, welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. In this house we have regular sessions on Advaita, especially offered from Bindoji's perspective, and on 5 days a week at 8:30 p.m. IST we meet for a regular class or a session. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 6 and we are revisiting some of the verses where Bindoji left before he took a short break. And as the schedule follows, on Sunday we have an open discussion, Advaita open discussion, where anybody is welcome to come up or come to the room and ask questions about what is Advaita, the approach, the intention, and the method of practice, and how that kind of awakens us to the reality of who we are, and all those things are included. And Bindoji says, never shy away from asking questions. So with that general introduction, I will also put the links for the rooms that were previously happening in this house. They're available as replays in Clubhouse, but we also have, Bindoji has dedicated YouTube channel called Advaita Retold, where there is a cumulative series of talks that is accumulated over a period of few years, which are well categorized. And there are two other links I'll share, which is Spotify and Apple Podcast. And the founder of the house, Artemisia, one of the founders of the house, she has published a book which is available on Amazon. The title of the book is Imaginary Door. It's published on Amazon platform and it's available for further readings. And the book is primarily based on Bindoji's insights into Advaita and how Artemisia perceives it in her own language. With that introduction, I'll be closing the chat and hand raising when Bindoji is offering the class for about an hour, after which we'll open up the channels for any follow-up questions and answers. Welcome back, Bindoji. As always, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash, Atmisha, and all of you here. After a break of 2 weeks, we'll resuming the left sections of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. And since we had a gap of 2 weeks, maybe you may not be remembering the continuity of the class. So today I will dedicate the class for recap. Plus, I will also add one more verse, which is part of the 4-verse series on the concluding of the art of meditation or dhyana yoga. And with that, let me do my invocation before I start my class today. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murtibeda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarutaha Tunvandi Divyai Stavai Vedai Sangapadakramो Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam na Vidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om. The verses 20, 21, 22 and 23 form one single sentence by Krishna. We have dealt with 20, 21 and 22. 23 is where the main verb of the statement is located. So even though as a study of Gita, we went through each of the verses, but today, before I take the final verse where the main verb vidyat is being discussed, it is mandatory that we all keep in mind what was said in the previous 3 verses. So I will start the 4 verses together and then explain them. Yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra cha eva atmana atmanam pashyan atmani trushyati. Sukham atyantikam yat tat buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Veti yatra na cha eva ayam stitaha chalati tattvataha. Yam labdhva cha aparam labham manyate na adhikam tataha. Yogina stitah na dukkhena guruna abhi vichalyate. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga vyogam yoga sanjitam. Saha sunischena vettavya yoga anirvirna chetasa. So when we look at the sentences, one sentence which is making the completion of the meditation or the dhyana yoga, where he starts with yatra uparamate chittam niruddha sevaya, yoga sevaya, which we dealt in the 20th verse. It is the 20th verse where the mind restrained by the practice of yoga. Now what is the yoga? This is not the yoga of the Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga nor the yoga of meditation. But the meditation has a different connotation in Bhagavad Gita altogether. It is, even though he is referring to the type of seating which need to be, where the concentration should be, and the mind, how the control of the mind is to be done. Now, if you read, I don't want to go back to those verses again. If you want to visit them, where finally he said that the mind should be like the lamp in a non-windy place, yata diva nivatastha. Na ingate sa upama smrta yogina yata chittasya yunjada yogam atmanam. There he has explained the crux of the meditation. The mind should be steady like the lamp in a windless place. Now, we know what is mind. We know the mind which is always in turbulence or in flux, in the question of jumping from content to content, evaluating, reacting, and, apprehending. All those three aspects of the mind, we call it as a mind. But the mind which Krishna talks about is a mind where it doesn't have content, it doesn't evaluate, it doesn't apprehend, it doesn't react. Then only it will become like a lamp in a windless place. So obviously, the yoga which Krishna talks about is not the yoga of meditation which is in the normal understanding. This is why where most of the people, inadvertently they take the meaning of the yoga as the Dhyana Yoga. Even though somebody has given the name of the chapter as Dhyana Yoga, the yoga which Krishna is talking about, a dhyana, which is being explained in the 24 to 28 verse, which we'll be seeing after we complete this particular treatise of what is the benefit of such a yoga. So, when he mentioned that uparamate means withdrawal, chittam, the mind, yoga sevaya niruddham chittam, the mind restrained or the inner equipment restrained by the practice of yoga which he has explained earlier, which is ceasing from all activity. Even meditation or dhyana is an activity for all of us. Meditation is an activity like any other activity. Maybe the purpose of it is to quieten the mind, but it is still an activity. And a mind which is active cannot be a mind which can withdraw from its natural habitat. That is what I explained as apprehending, evaluating, reacting, etc. And where yatra cha eva atmana atmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. Seeing the Atman by the Atman, one rests completely absorbed or satisfied in the beauty of the self or beauty of the Atman or in the Swabhava of Atman. And what is the Swabhava of Atman? He has explained that in the previous verses. It is Atyandikam Sukham. It is unending state of bliss. That is the nature of self. But that self is not known to us. Only when the self, which we call it as self, abides in that self, it can be there. Now, when we look at our own understanding, when we say self, do not go into a wild imagination that the self is something pristine, divine, residing in an unattainable spot within the realms of, divinity. People have got various wild guesses on that. But when Krishna says that, Atmana Atmanam Pashyan, Atmani Tushyati, which means the self which we are talking or the Atman which we are talking about. Let me use the word Atman so that we let us not confuse with the word self. So when the Atman is using Atman to reside in Atman, Pashyan Atmani, then he becomes Tushyati, means he remains satisfied or elated or absorbed in the happiness of the self. But the self, what we know about ourselves as I, is something which we need to probe into very deeply. What is that I which we refer to? We all refer we use the term I. The I is the Atman, which is being Krishna is referring to. But we refer that I to sometimes to the body, sometimes to the image which we have created, sometimes to our reactions of the mind. Many, many ways we use the word I. When you say somebody is touching you, you say well, your body. You say, oh, I felt when you touched me, I knew that you are touching me. The I, the ID is identification with the body. Sometimes when we say that I am happy, I am sorrowful, we are identifying with the I, with the mind or the antakarana. Like that, if you look at it, we keep shifting the usage of I for our convenience. At the same time, the real I, which is unattached or unidentifiable to any of the previous identification which we have developed, is the Atman which is Krishna referring to. Then only that Atman can reside or abide in Atman. The body, if you are identifying, the body is perishable and Atman is imperishable. If you are identifying away the mind is sankalpa vikalpa. It is imagination and projection, apprehending and reacting and all those things. And that also is completely in a state of change all the time. It is never permanent, whereas Atman is changeless. So what is the I we are to understand as to who we are is something which Krishna is asking us to meditate upon or to probe into to understand who we are. That is the time when the yoga sevaya niruddham chittam means by the yoga of probing into what has been told, the nature of the mind, which was explained earlier. That nature of mind, you can do it only when you are sitting quiet in a place. That is why he had to refer to the type of seating and etc. It is not that it has got any sanctity of it. That it should be with a hide in the top, cloth in the top, hide in between and the grass at the bottom. And it is neither too high nor too low. All those things are not important. But they are important for the beginner, for a sadhaka. So when we doing that, our concentration should not take us back. That is important, and that is where I have to stay all the time and make no error in it. No. He is making us to move forward, using that as a first rung of the ladder. But the culmination, he said that the mind should now remain steady like a windless spot where the lamp, is not flickering. Same way, the mind should not be flickering. That is the Niruddha Yoga Sevaya Chitta. And he used the word Yatra Uparamate. Uparamate is actually speaking withdrawing or restraining. Restraining from what? From the natural habitat of the mind. That is the time the mind will not identify ourselves with the body, with the thoughts, emotions, feelings which is happening inside the mind. The mind is the mind which is the I, seat of I. Krishna wants us to go to that spot where we can know the true I without identification. That is why the Uttayatara Uparamati is talking about. Are we able to do that? Pashyati. Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. In this word he said, one who sees, he remains in happiness. He become happy. It is not that he is enjoying happiness. He identifies the happiness of the Atma nature. And when that happens, is the time when we really know what we keep referring as Atman. What we are referring as Atman means what we are referring as I can be known only through this process. Then he says that Sukham Atyandigam Yad Buddhigrahyam Atindriyam Veti Yatra Na Cha Eva Ayam Stita Chalati Tattvataha. That Tattvataha, from that truth, here he didn't use the word Atmata, Atman as the place. He says Tattvataha. It is not that he's making a mistake of using another word for Atma. That is the truth. And the definition of the truth is that which is changeless. So by saying Tattvataha in the 21st verse, he's keep giving us the direction that the I, which is changeless. Now, let us look back into our own understanding of our own usage of the word I. From a child onward, from the childhood onward till date, we all have used the word I without knowing what is that true I, but identifying itself with the childish body or the childhood body or the childhood mind, childhood imaginations and identifications. Now, whatever knowledge we had at the childhood, all those things changed when we became adolescent. It further changed when we became adults. It further changes when we become old. Everything is changing. But have we noticed the I which we have been using, who knows the changes, yet has been always changeless? That is the one that therefore the truth, tattvam, na chalati, it doesn't change. Yatra veti means the knowing takes place at that place when Atmani Atmanam Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. In the previous verse, what he has referred to the place where he is the Atmani Tushyati. That is the yatra which is being referred from, where knowing that state of Atman or the I, which is the truth also, na chalati evam, is not moving at all. Because why? Sukham atyantigam yat tat buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Because that is Sukham. Sukham is happiness. But at the same time, it is not the happiness which we are all familiar with. What are the happiness we are familiar with? Whenever we are having desires and those desires getting fulfilled, we feel happy. That happens in our waking. In the dream also we have similar thing, happiness and sorrow. Desire and, obstruction of desires. In the deep sleep also we have a happiness. But that happiness is contentless. It is not the happiness of the, what you call, the I or Atman. It is the happiness which we by default go when our mind is not perturbed. Because in the waking and the dream, our mind is active. That mind, when it becomes least active, but not in the light of knowledge, but in a state of ignorance, which we can say, it is not actually ignorance, it is the absence of other things. We say, I knew nothing. So knowing nothing is considered as ignorance. So some people say that we are in a state of ignorance in our deep sleep. But deep sleep, if you look at it, the waking, dream and deep sleep is a product of ignorance. A product of ignorance of what? Product of ignorance of not knowing the real nature of I. So, even the deep sleep Sugam cannot be considered as the happiness of Atman. Because the deep sleep is the individualized experience. But the Sukham which is being referred by Krishna here, he is Atyandigam. It is an endless. Andam means end. Andigam means which has got an end. Atyandigam means absolute, unsurpassed, which doesn't have a beginning or end. That which, yattat, that Sukham is buddhigrahyam. This is the only place where Krishna is refuting that Atman is, different from what we have studied in the Upanishad. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, we studied that, yato vacho nivartande aprapya manasasaha. Even the mind cannot reach there. But here he says buddhigrahyam. He didn't say manograhyam. He purposely used the word buddhigrahyam. Only to an intelligent person who applies the logic and the methodology which he has mentioned till now can have a glimpse or can know this state of happiness through analysis. Because it is not something which is being produced. What does the intellect do? The intellect is always capable of analyzing and exposing or giving the knowledge of an already existing reality. That is why in the scientific world, we use the terms according to that. Whatever has been observed by data and revealed is what is the scientific truth about. It is already existing. Only thing is that intellect has been able to decipher it and bring it into a realm of knowledge. The mind cannot do it because the mind keeps shifting. It always reacts. Emotions, feelings and thoughts are the nature of mind, whereas logical, analytical are the nature of the buddhi. So, mind cannot find it. That is why in the Taittiriya Upanishad it is mentioned that it is not possible for the mind to know it. Yado vajo nivartande aprapya manasasaha. Even in the Kena Upanishad it said that Yat manasana manude yena hurmano matam. It is not the mind which can know it, but with the very power with which the mind is capable of knowing. Tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam ididam upasate. So all these places, when the mind terminology is being used, we should always understand that it is talking about the sankalpa vikalpa or the imagination and projection nature of this thing. It is never doing analytical. And therefore, the imagination and the projection depends upon emotions, feelings and thoughts, etc. Whereas here he is talking about buddhi grahya, graspable by the purified intellect. Yoga, he has mentioned that, that chittam, which he mentioned in the 20th verse. That chetas, which he said, is what is being used here as the purified intellect, buddhi grahya. Atindriyam, beyond that senses, because the senses are blinkered horses. They can look in only one direction. The eyes can only see the light and form. The ears can hear only the sound and the tone and the temper, etc. of the voice which is coming from the others. Like that, other instruments also, in the other indriyas. Smell, taste, touch, etc. Na chalati tattvataha. Such a intellect which is, atindriyam, which is not depending upon the sense organs, that doesn't move from the truth. Yam labdva labham manyate. That state with the buddhi grahyam has grasped, which again, labdva labham, having obtained the acquisition. Labham here is a object. Labdva means having obtained the obtainable or having achieved the achievable. So here again he is contradicting. It cannot be achieved is what is that, because the achiever and the achievable are the same. But how he say yed labdva labham manyate, which having obtained the obtainable is considered by him. that is, he is now considering that he is not achievable has been achieved. There is a hidden, what you call, trick or suggestion in Krishna's these words. Labdva labade, labdva labam manyate. See, that is the word manyate in Sanskrit means considers or thinks. He is thinking that he has, or he considering that he has now achieved the unachievable. The same mind is now fooling as if that it has achieved, because it is an experience which was never experienced before, but it is being considered as achieved because it was even present before also. Therefore, it has to be considered as achieved. Actually, we are not achieving anything. Labdva labham. The self or the I is not something which is achieved. The I which we are referring to has been the I from childhood till now, till date. It is the same I which is now being known by us through the intellect without depending upon the sense organs. Therefore, there is a imagination or a feeling that I have achieved my true knowledge about myself. So these verses are very intriguing, at the same time giving a new light for our self-inquiry. But when he considers that he has achieved, a question can come: what is achievable can be lost, because it is in time and space. There is a word, guruna vichalyate. Na tam guruna vichalyate. Guruna means heavy or grave. Dukkhena, guruna is it is the adjective to the word sorrow. We are all familiar with happiness getting displaced by sorrow all the time. Never in anybody's life can say that his happiness was never displaced by sorrow. We always have happiness displaced by sorrow, sorrow getting displaced by another happiness. This displacement of happiness and sorrow has been perpetual for all of us. So, the sukham which has been referred, or the happiness which was referred by Krishna, has to be, concretized by himself. He has to do that. So, guruna dukkhena na vichalyate. Whatever may be the force of the sorrow which is befalling the individual or the I, Since it is a achievement of a always present sense of I, even the sorrows which we were facing, that time also the I was present there, not only when the happiness was happening to us. So it is not, he is bringing the term to indicate to us that this happiness which is of the self or the I or the Atman is not the type of happiness which we are familiar with in our mundane life, which get displaced by the sorrow. Even the gravest of the sorrow could not diminish or extinguish the I which was knowing the sorrow. We all know that as a fact. We never lost the sense of I even in our gravest of the miseries we have gone through in our life. We were able to go through it because the I by default is the nature of happiness, and that happiness diminishes the nature of the misery, gravest misery. And when we move on in time, because the happiness and sorrow we are familiar in our life are product in time and space. But the I which knows that is not a product of space and time. Because product and space of space is a space and time is a content of the I for the I. Therefore, the I is not a part of the space and time. Therefore, moving to the 23rd verse, he says that Dukkha Samyoga Viyogam Yoga Sanjitam. Samyogam means union. Viyogam means detachment or separation. Dukkha Samyoga Viyogam. The disjunction from union with sorrow. That is associating with that and disassociating with the dukkha. That is designated by the name yoga. We are all getting confused here. Krishna says that that is what is yoga. The association with the sorrow and the withdrawal from that. He used a word dukkha to indicate dukkha and sukha. Sukha, dukkha, which we are familiar with. Which is buddhigrahyam, manograhyam and indriyagrahyam. We are familiar with what is sensed by the sense organs, the mind and the intellect. So there is a association and dissociation happening all the time with the happiness and the sorrow, which is through the mind and the in sense organs. So that indication toward the sukham is to make us understand that the real yoga, or what is designated as the yoga of the 6th chapter, it is not dhyana yoga. It is the yoga which is dukkha samyoga yoga. What is known as happiness and sorrow to us, if we can, is when the association and dissociation with the known happiness and sorrow takes place, or is the effect, we feel that we have achieved the sense or the nature of I. That is the Atmanam Atmani Pashyati. And this Krishna says that Yoktavya yoga, from the yoga word, he is using a gerundive word for, or tavyat pratyaya. It is to be practiced. This yoga need to be practiced. What yoga? Dukkha samyoga yoga. That has to be stopped. How? Anirvarna chetasa. With the inner equipment, undespairing and undismayed. Nirvirna is without dismay. The mind should not go into its natural habitat. So, that state in which the mind, restrained by the practice of yoga, ceases from its activity, in which seeing the self by the self, or seeing the I by the I, one becomes content in the state of that I which is not connected with the natural habitat of the self, in which the practitioner knows that the absolute happiness is graspable by the intellect, but it is not a product of the sense organ. And when it is established in that, he never wavers from the truth. Tattvataha na chalati. He never wavers from that I once, having gained which he considers no other I greater than. The moment we realize our true nature of the I, which we are using without even understanding why I am using that I, once we gain that, that is the time when we will know that there is nothing which is more achievable, more valuable, or more, desirable. Because we never knew whether we can achieve the I, the true nature of the I. We have been using I, we know Atman, and we have all imaginations about the nomenclatures and the identifications of I. But we never ever bothered to find out the true I, the I which is without any of those things. But when we are established in that, we are then never shaken by the normal, mundane life, happiness and sorrow. That let one know as yoga. That is the yoga. Yoga is not an activity. It is the disjunction with the union or with the happiness and sorrow which we are familiar with. That yoga is to be practiced with firm resolve, with a mind undismayed. Means the mind should not go back to its routine habitat. Therefore, the yoga is not an activity, it is the knowledge. It is the knowledge of the I knowing itself. Only when the I or Atman really understands who we are. It is not the ego. Mano, buddhi, ahankara, chittani, naham. Nacha strotra jihve, nacha grana netre. All those things which we have heard about in the Nirvana Shatakam. It says to us that Nischayena Yoktavya, we should practice this to identify ourselves as the I which we are using without knowing what it is. But when we know about it, there is no wavering from that. We do not know what is the truth about the I which we are using. It is just like a person using his body, thinking his body is I. At the same time, he has the full knowledge that the body is a object which is under his knowledge or a content for his knowledge. Yet, he identifies with the object as I. Like a person identifying with the car when he is driving, or a plane when a pilot when he is maneuvering a plane, or a two-wheeler, or a cycle, or a skateboard, or a roller skater. We have done that, always identifying with our body. Never in our life we have identified ourselves as the true nature of the I. Therefore, the verses from 20 to 23 is the phalashruti or the fruit of identifying the self. As the witness or the I which is not the waker, not the dreamer, not the deep sleeper, but the one which knows the three. So, when we are able to do this and identify ourselves as present in our intellect, when Krishna said buddhigrahyam, it is not a content or an object for the intellect, but it is the very nature of the intellect which is knowing everything. That time the intellect is not a instrument of the body, but it is the reflecting consciousness in the body, through the body. Or it is the Chaitanya, which Sat Chit Ananda, in the form of Sat Chit and Ananda, as existence, consciousness and happiness. present in everything. When we do that, identifying, that identification is the yoga what is being referred. So the dhyana yoga, or the reference to the methodology through which Krishna took us to this level, is to make us identify with our true nature of I. Once this is clear to us, the yoga is over. There is nothing more to be done. Yallabdva na param labham. Having achieved which, there is nothing more to be achieved. Is what Krishna is indicating to us. Now next 3 verses, 24, 25 and 26. Krishna is giving practical prescriptions. How the dukkha samyoga viyogam, or how the sankalpa tyaga, sankalpa vikalpatmagam is the mind. So the mano nigraha, how to be achieved by that. Even though he gave the result of the mano nigraha or the meditation yoga, the next 3 verses he is going to explain to us the nature of mind and how the mind is actually restrained, or the practice of yoga. We will see the 3 verses in the coming classes in this week, 24, 25 and 26. We are on Wednesday today. Thursday, Friday we will have classes. Saturday, 1 day break. Sunday we will have our common open house for discussions. I'll stop the class here. We will resume the same thing tomorrow at the same time, 8:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. I'm back in India, so we will resume the same timing. Om Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much, Bindoji. I've opened the chat and the hand raising option is available there. A slight change in the hand raising option if you've noticed. It's called request to join. So you can use that option. Yeah, it has changed. There's changed the setting.
I keep on changing things. I don't know.
Yeah. And it is always very nice to have you back, Bindoji. I think Srini is up here. Namaste, Srini.
Namaste, Srini.
Namaste, Bindoji. Welcome back. Very nice to have these sessions at this regular time.
Thank you.
So, just one quick question, Bindoji. Is it similar to this concept? Is it similar to, because we won't get butter directly from the cow, we take milk and then make butter, or sugarcane juice is not available directly from the plant, we take sugarcane. So because the buddhi is so subtle, so we are sukha dukkha, what is this, the negation or something, that is what is leading to that buddhi. Is it that right way to understand?
No. See, you are confusing with the buddhi which is under the, what you call, dependency of the sense organs. Because those sense organs input are required by the buddhi to act. for its analysis. But to know itself, the buddhi doesn't need the input from anything external other than itself. So it is not like the butter coming from milk or the juice coming from the sugar cane or thing, because it is not separatable like the butter or the juice. That is the difference between the two. What can you separate from yourself? You are knowing that I am, but you don't know what is the I. That I is the happiness, Atyantikam Sukham. When Krishna talks about it is the endless nature of happiness, he is indicating to a state of happiness which is not produced by the intellect or the mind. The intellect produced happiness after analyzing the desirable object has now come and it is mine. That feeling brought it a happiness. Whereas here we are talking about a happiness which is not a product of intellect, but the very nature of intellect when it is not dependent upon the sense organs or the contents of the sense organs. Is it understood? Is it clear now?
Yeah, but yeah, the question I had was why then we are the phrase is something like I forgot the exact word. Sukha dukkha, something yoga you said, right?
Dukkha samyoga viyogam.
Samyoga viyoga. So this, what does this then, this samyoga viyoga, because that is what I was understanding as samyoga viyoga is trying to reach the subtle buddhi with the help of some concrete things like sukha, dukkha or something like that. But then how should we understand this samyoga viyoga of this?
That is what when Krishna said that dukkha samyoga viyogam, what did he say? Is nothing but the tattva recognizing as its own true identity. Not that is the confusion which we'll have, the disjointment and the attachment, which we are familiar with the happiness and the sorrow. We don't want to be attached with sorrow. We want to be attached with the happiness. So we will try to detach from the sorrow and try to attach with sukha. This is the nature in which the buddhi is working. But yoga, which Krishna is talking about, is that dukkha samyoga viyoga, removing the dependency for this aversion and attachment for the dukkha and samyoga viyoga. That to understand it linearly, you should know the nature in which our mind is operating. This operation of that, it is what is coming in the next 3 verses, where the word yoga gets more clarity, because how does the dukkha samyoga yoga as the name of the nomenclature of yoga is actually practical, possible, mano nigraha. That is the time when the dukkha samyoga yoga will be clearer to you.
Okay, Binduji, one last thing.
Yeah.
So is this like when it says dukkha samyoga viyoga, is it like a 2-step thing? Because it seems to be samyoga is 1 step and viyoga is another step,
No,
right? Or
there is that the dukkha doesn't mean dukkha alone. Sukha dukkha samyoga viyogam has to be taken. The samyoga with sukha and viyoga for dukkha is our nature of the mind. If you remember, if you know that all living beings are driven or they are exhibiting life by doing these two activities. Aversion to sorrow and attachment towards happiness. This is the expression of life for all living beings. But the Atma or the self in all the living beings is not dependent upon the exhibition of what is life. That is why it becomes beyond birth and death. Because birth and death is what is shown as living. And that is coming under the nature of whenever that life is shown, it is aversion of sorrow and attachment towards happiness. All living beings. But in all these things, the self is not even taking part in that activity. Therefore, the life which we see as what is happening in waking, dream and deep sleep is due to a wrong identification with the senses and the sense organs and the body-mind-intellect complex. We think we are the individuals. We are not the individual. That we can know only when we are able to do this. Detachment and attachment is not my Swarupa or Swabhava.
Thank you, Binduji.
Thank you, Sri. Namaste, Vinod.
Yeah, Binduji, welcome back.
Thank you.
And I hope every day evening now we'll have continuous
Yeah,
sessions.
we'll have continuous class now.
Yeah. And just wanted to point out that when Nisargadatta Maharaj says, no, be in the I am, basically it is the same thing, no, that whatever you are telling. I can easily relate to that.
Absolutely the same.
You have to recognize.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all. And it's like you have to be there, no? Normally people visit that place.
Yes.
They recognize the I am, but they are not there actually.
No.
Because they go back to mind.
That is why it comes and goes in glimpse for many people.
Precisely. Yeah. Thanks, Binduji.
Thank you, Vinod. Namaste, Sat.
नमस्ते बिंदु जी, पहले तो धन्यवाद कि आप जो कर रहे हैं। मैं आपके क्लासेस को स्पॉटिफाई पे सुना करता था। तो
वेरी गुड।
और आज जो आपने बताया है उसको इस तरह से कहा जा सकता है क्या कि बुद्धि द्वारा जब अपने स्वरूप का ज्ञान हो जाए तो वापस मन अपने स्वाभाविक आदतों में न फंसे, इसलिए मन का ही उपयोग करके मन को एक तरह से बहलाना या फुसलाना कि इससे बेहतर और कुछ नहीं हो सकता। और संसार रूपी शोक रूपी संसार से खुद को काट देना ही योग है या निर्लिप्त रहना ही योग है। और इसी चीज का अभ्यास दृढ़ता और उत्साह से किया जाना चाहिए। क्या इस तरह से समराइज करना इन 3 वर्सेस का ठीक रहेगा?
ठीक ही है, आपने जो बताया सही है। उसमें सिर्फ इतना ही ध्यान रखने का, वहां बुद्धि 2 तरह का उसका इस्तेमाल किया जाता है। एक बुद्धि जो है हमारे लिए अभी जो जानकारी में है कि ये मेरा बुद्धि है, ये मेरा सोच है करके हम जो कर रहे हैं। Sorry, I'll shift back to English, Sat, for the benefit of others. So, the intellect which we should use has to be very, very clear. The intellect is the I, but not the intellect which we know as the intellect. That is why the I is referred as buddhigrahya. It is in the mind only we know who I am. The knowing has to take place where the ignorance is there. The ignorance is in the intellect. It is the intellect which is now thinking I am the human being. I am the body-mind-intellect complex. There the knowledge has to shine, or that whatever may be the instrument which is now we are using to identify ourselves as human beings is already present there, but it is knowing itself as wrongly knowing. See, in the case of a rope and snake or a gold and ornaments and all, it is we who are knowing that. But the rope doesn't know that it is being known as snake by somebody. Here we have to understand that the third party which examples which are being used there is not the way in which it can be used here. Because here there is no third party here. It is the same intellect which is now identifying itself as the I, as the waker, as the dreamer, as the deep sleeper. And when we are studying, it is also understanding it as a witness, saying that I am knowing, waking, dream and deep sleep, so I am different from that. It's not known. But that knowledge is not enough. So even though what you have summarized as the summary of all those things, the intellect aspect has to be very, very, very clearly understood. It is not the intellect which we are familiar with. Okay?
Thank you, Binduji.
Thank you, sir.
Bindo, I
Yes.
just wanted to say I thought that it was perfect that I was able to be here today, and apologies to you and everybody that henceforth my cell coverage will be unknown every day. But I was so glad to be here today, and I think that when you were pointing to that what a seeker thinks they're seeking is not any kind of an object at all, actually. Is one of the most difficult things to really assimilate into how we go about if we feel that we're on a spiritual search, and that this can't be thought of as an object that is sought after, nor a state, nor a mental understanding, even, which I think some people in Advaita make that mistake from what I observe. And the way that you spoke today, I think it makes it really clear that there is no metaphysics that's required, although there are many metaphysics, including Advaita and many others, that allude to what is sought. Very, very difficult to accept that there's not an object that's being sought. Very, very important in my mind. And that the way you spoke, implicit in everything you said, is pointing to how this internal inquiry, whatever the form, whether it's who am I or other forms as well, it can be so useful. But I feel like the way you spoke, if the way I hear it, and I think it can be heard, it's really free of any tradition and is right at the fundamental roots. So I just wanted you to know I thought you did a really skillful, beautiful job, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening, and it continues to just be such a pleasure knowing you. So thank you, Bindo. Hari Om.
Thank you, Atmisha. You summarized it well.
Welcome back.
Namaste, Harin. How are you?
Oh, sorry. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Happy to see you.
All rested up? Yeah. we're all so happy to have you back in the routine of you giving beautiful knowledge.
Thank you, Kevin.
I just want to clarify something. So the intellect, right?
Yes.
So when the intellect is focused on the knowledge of dual things, of this is good, this is bad, I gotta change this, then it belongs to the human. But that same intellect, if the content of that intellect has been changed to the nature of what you are, then that intellect comes in the form of Atman. Then Atman is knowing itself through that intellect, even though we're in the body. But it's the same intellect, right?
Yeah, that is the exact thing is that is the time when the intellect, which itself was using the term I, but behaving as if an instrument, stopped being an instrument, but the, what you call, the very prime mover or the very life which it was using itself as I, comes to know about I am the I. I cannot say I am that. I am the I.
Yeah, I am I.
Yes, I am I.
Nice. And thank you. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Karan. Okay. So see tomorrow. We'll continue the same 6th chapter.
Okay, Binoji. So we'll wind up for today. So it is wonderful to have you back and glad to hear you feeling well. Thanks everyone for attending this session. And tomorrow we'll continue at the same time at 8:30 p.m. IST. So if you want to listen to the replays, you can access them here in Clubhouse, or you can go to the channels shared in the chat. And as Bindoji reminded us, the sessions will be ongoing from today onwards, unless and until there is some reason for a break. We'll meet at 8:30 p.m. IST weekdays, and on Sunday 8:30 p.m. IST we'll have an open discussion, Advaita open discussion. So thanks everyone, and thanks especially for the people who came up and asked questions. And as always, thank you, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash, Atmisha, Srini, Vinod, Sat, and Karin for having come up and asked the questions. And thank you all for listening there. And let us meet regularly. We'll continue with our sessions. And prepared my own commentary with the help of, input from different sources. The Upanishad, which I will be taking after the 6th chapter. So that book PDF will be presented, so that you people will have a book for referring to and taking the class. See you all. Hari Om. Good. Have a good night. See you.